you very much, Mr. Chair. Director Vought, have you or anyone you know ever had a medical emergency?
Of course.
Do you personally know anyone who has ever gone into debt because of a medical emergency?
Yes.
When the president, or before the president took office, the CFPB finalized a rule that would have removed almost $50 billion in medical debt from the credit reports of tens of millions of Americans. Debt, which, by the way, is often incorrect. But Director Vought, within months of your taking office, the CFPB reversed itself. It joined with the very same debt collectors who were set to profit off medical debt to overturn this rule. How did your decision in any way help those tens of millions of Americans, some of whom are watching today, being crushed by nearly $50 billion in medical debt? How was this helpful for them?
Senator, the statute specifically ensures that credit reporting agencies can take into account medical debt. So until you change that statute, we don't have the ability to just regulate however we want to.
Well, you could have tried to narrow the rule, right?
No, we really could not have.
You could have tried to fight it in court.
No, our oath is to the statutes that you have passed to faithfully execute those laws.
You were not able to fight it in court?
What we could just win in court about.
That's not something you could have fought in court?
Not if we have a fundamental disagreement about what the statute requires.
You and I can agree to disagree. I think you chose not to fight it in court, and you joined forces with those debt collectors. A year ago, I, along with nearly 30 of my colleagues, demanded answers from you about this decision, and I request unanimous consent to enter our letter into the record. You never responded. Do you ever respond? Do you ever plan to respond to my letter?
Much of the correspondence that we've gotten has to do with litigation that we're a part of. And so we can't speak and respond to letters of which we're going to have to provide answers in court, and that is a reality that we face. But we do intend to have a very open relationship with Congress, and I'm happy to correspond with you on a regular basis.
Do you ever plan to respond to our letter?
I'm leaving the post on August 1st, so there's a lot of things that hopefully Brian Johnson will be doing, and one of those is those types of correspondence.
Well, you're leaving on August 1st. You've done quite a bit of damage in a few months. We had a simple ask: show your work. Publicly disclose the data and the analysis to justify the CFPB's position that the medical debt rule was unnecessary or unlawful. Since you didn't respond, I'll ask you now, how many Americans were projected to have their medical debt wiped from their credit scores by the CFPB's medical debt rule, which you overturned?
I don't know, but the rule was unlawful.
The answer is 15 million.
Before this turns into another argument over procedure, sit with that number for a second. The answer is 15 million. That is how many Americans were projected to have medical debt removed from their credit reports under the rule this hearing is about. So when the exchange starts, that is the standard. Not spin, not process, not throat clearing. 15 million people.
Medical debt can ruin credit scores, which can make it impossible for folks to ever buy a home. Do you know how many more mortgages consumers would have been able to afford each year if you hadn't overturned the rule?
I don't have that off the top of my head.
So the answer is 22,000.
And now the argument gets even more concrete. This is not just about a credit score on paper. This is about who gets a house and who does not. 22,000 mortgages is not an abstract policy footnote. That is families who could have qualified and now might not. That is people paying more, waiting longer, or getting shut out entirely because a medical emergency followed them onto a credit report. This is the senator's strongest stretch in the exchange because he forces the cost of the reversal into plain English. Medical debt is not staying in a spreadsheet here. It shows up at the bank, on the loan application, and at the kitchen table. That is where this line turns a regulatory debate into a life decision people understand immediately.
22,000 mortgages that consumers would have been able to afford, 15 million Americans who were set to have their medical debt wiped from their credit scores. I've seen this up close in the state of Georgia, and the impact, the real human costs behind the very cold and clinical language about statutory authority, which I think you do have, questions that you could have raised. CFPB, by its nature, is advocating for everyday consumers. And I don't see how any of your actions suggest that you've been advocating for the people that I represent. It seems to me that this shouldn't be a partisan issue. People on both sides of the aisle know that medical emergencies can happen to anybody. They can happen to anyone. We've seen that up close in this very body over the last few weeks. But thanks to you, there are now families who cannot buy a house, they're hounded by debt collectors, and they're denied business loans, all because they got sick. Director Vought, you've spent the last 18 months decimating the CFPB and its consumer protections, and I think families across America will be better off when you're gone. I'd like a response to my letter. Thank you.
Senator.
If you want to see more content like this, hit the subscribe button. I post new videos every week. Thank you for watching. Keep the faith.